Entrepreneurial burnout is real, and it is devastating. Listen in as the two business guys mastermind on ways to bust through entrepreneurial burnout with special guest Rob Heath Sr. Enjoy. This business podcast, the two business guys mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. Okay, hey guys, welcome back. This is Randy. I am one half of the Two Business Guys Mastermind. And, John is out. He's doing some strategy on one of the companies that he's running. And so he's going to be out today. But I tell you who I have today. You should have heard us talking off camera. Oh my gosh, it's just good stuff. I got to get this guy in, right? So I got Rob Heath, husband, father, best-selling author, businessman, Marine, former attorney, Spanish teacher, jiu-jitsu instructor, and I'm probably leaving some stuff out. Now, today we're going to be talking about entrepreneurial burnout and overwhelm. Now, look, I just read all the stuff he's done and probably missed all the stuff that he does. We are all out there spinning plates. But Rob, I tell you, I am worried about my entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
They're burning out. I mean, burning out.
Yeah.
Some of them are not admitting that they're burnt out.
Yeah.
I got an intervention scheduled for one of my entrepreneurs right now because I'm worried about them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm watching and seeing things that to me are all indications. And as I started looking at, I was reading an article that I got from GoDaddy, and I was reading the symptoms of entrepreneurial burnout and the things they talked about. I started saying, wait a minute, I can understand this one. That's me. Right? I hadn't produced a lot of stuff in about 2 months.
Yeah.
I was producing a product, something every week, and I stopped. And I says, wait a minute, this is maybe I was suffering from some things here, right?
That's exactly
so
what
I wanted
happened.
to have you on, talk a little bit about that. I want to also talk about how your book, Thrive in the Chaos, and your course can begin to speak to that. And off camera, we were talking about a few things, high achievers, how they like to do their stuff. Could you just kind of bring that back to our audience here? What about those high achievers? What's going on?
So, as you know, the majority of my clientele are high achieving people who are, professionals. They have families, they have businesses, they have leadership roles in their companies if they're entrepreneurs. But at the end of the day, there's a certain phenomena that I have noticed amongst high achievers, and it's this. There's a certain point where high achievers get to this feeling where their achievement doesn't continue to bring them the passion that it used to bring them. It does. Checking the boxes doesn't give you the same feeling of accomplishment that it used to give you. And a lot of that is driven by the fact that we were talking about Ryan Daniel Moran's book, 12 Months to $1 Million. And the fact that a lot of times when entrepreneurs reach their exit moment, there's a sense of depression. And similarly, there was a book that that discussed this. I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but it was talking about billionaires, right? And when people reach the billionaire mark, there's a sense of depression that happens, and it was akin to what happened to the astronauts who walked on the moon. A lot of the astronauts that walked on the moon, when they did studies of them coming back, there was this feeling of like, what do you do after you've walked on the moon? There's nothing like there's nothing in life that they can top that. And the ones that were well adjusted were the ones that got into other life. Alan Shepard became a U.S. senator, and there were a number of different things that happened. But there's this reality that exists that if we don't plan through our goal, then what happens at the other side of that is a tremendous sense of depression, is a tremendous sense of letdown, because we're wondering what else is there. And that happens so often for high achievers. And guess who the majority of the entrepreneurial ranks are? They're high achievers. They're people who feel like going and working a job is not stimulating enough, is not enough work for me. It's not going to challenge me enough. I need to go create something from scratch that has never existed in the history of the world and try to make that dream a reality. That's who our entrepreneurs are. And so it makes perfect sense that while depression is only suffered by 7% of the general population, over 30% of founders suffer from depression. I just want you to let your listeners to let that sink in for a second. While only 7% of the general population is dealing with this, 1 in 3 founders of companies is dealing with depression. And over 50% of founders wind up dealing in some way with burnout, right? And to be clear, let's talk about, burnout is mental, physical, or emotional fatigue. It's a state and a feeling where you start to lose your enthusiasm to do. You start to lose your enthusiasm to continue to work hard. And it's where your stress hormones are constantly activated over time, right? And this goes all the way back to evolutionary thinking. When our amygdala is triggered, right, and that's our fight or flight response system is triggered, then our levels of cortisol, which is a stress hormone, increase. Our levels of adrenaline, which is another stress hormone, increase. And they don't increase to the point where your body, right, like when you get to your real fight or flight, they jump up in your body, and then your body has to come down. And there's this period where you can't do anything, where, right, it's kind of like when you have a sugar high and then you get that insulin rush, it's that crash, right? But when you have just slightly elevated levels, you're still functional. You still can continue on, but it's an elevated level of stress that is constantly, slowly but surely burning things away, burning away your ability to prolong, right? This is why inflammation is bad in the body. This is why all the rest of these types of things are bad, because they turn into chronic problems rather than acute problems. And so you're not even aware of it. But so many founders, so many entrepreneurs are running around with stress, running around with burnout. And the reason why this is such an important topic, and why I'm so glad that you brought me on to talk about this today, is because it's not just the individual that burnout affects, right? One of the other things that we need to pay attention to, and there are a number of surveys that are out there. Deloitte did a study where they talked about 83% of respondents and these are employed people, 83% of respondents explained how not only did their burnout affect them, but their burnout had negative impacts on their personal relationships. So you remember we were talking about everybody spinning plates, and you've got those plates in your professional life. That's one set of plates that you're doing. So those are the relationships where everybody's looking at your professional reputation. But the other piece that we got to remember, many of us are parents, spouses, brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, cousins, right? That's another set of plates that we're spinning, leaders, right? Community leaders, exactly. And that's another set of plates that we're spinning. And burnout in your professional life has negative impacts in your personal life. And that's something that so many people are not even paying attention to. And then we wonder, why is it that, entrepreneurs have a higher divorce rate, CEOs have a higher divorce rate than the general population, all these types of things. But when you look at the stress that is there and whether or not we're able to deal with that stress, it makes perfect sense that if we can't handle this reality, if we can't handle burnout, it is going to have a negative impact, not just on our bottom line, but on the reason for that bottom line. Because,
absolutely. I'm doing this for them.
Exactly.
And then you do it and you lose it. I love what Ryan said, right? He says he had got this, this $1 million check, and he comes home and his furniture is all gone, and his lady has left.
Yep.
So in that very sense, I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this for the family. I'm doing this so I can spend more time with you. Well, years go by sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I kind of put it out there yesterday. I was doing a live, and I talked a little bit about just some things to help these things. I'm talking about 2-hour baths, and I talked to the brothers. I said, hey, listen, I know, I don't take baths, but that's fine. Take yourself a bath, man. You know what I mean? Chill out. My wife likes to says, "Oh, I guess you went and did business in the bathtub." I says, "Yes." Right? Not the business in the bath, but business, because I'll take, the laptop, don't have the cord with it. But I put it in there, and then I'll just, listen to some music, or I'll, look at a podcast or something like that, and I'm chilling. Right. And she'll say, "Is there any hot water left?" No, no hot water left, because I refreshed that thing 3 or 4 times. But that is just a strategy.
Yeah.
To bring all of that. I stopped drinking coffee because of that cortisol level, right? One hand, you got the coffee stressing you out, right? Fight or flight. And then you got all the stuff that you're doing, all the plates you're spinning. And I suggested take some plates down, or in one sense, a good friend of mine talks about, don't think about balance. He said, think about harmony. He said, balance suggests that there's a subtraction and addition, a component. He said, but harmony suggests something else. Can we get to a state of harmony? Right. And that's, when I was reading your book, and I was talking about, and knowing a little bit about the course that you run, Thriving in Chaos, is it about that harmony? Talk to us a little bit about how that component comes in to help entrepreneurs in this kind of state. And I'm sure maybe in certain cases, because you do so much, help you.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Definitely. And I think that's a really good point, right? I wrote this book and I created this course, not because, I read a whole bunch of things and I heard about a bunch of theories. This is lived experience, right? I was this person. I was a Marine Corps company commander. I had just come off of being a litigator. I was a defense counsel. And over the course of about a 2-year period, I had about 200 clients, took 11 cases to trial, won 7 out of those 11 cases, which is, absurd. Normally defense counsels, cases that go to trial, prosecution wins 90-95% of the time. So I'm doing a ton of work. My wife is constantly, holding it down, taking care of the kids. I'm at work all the time. And so I get the company commander position, which we thought would be a less stressful and less time consuming position. And so I'm about 2 months in, things aren't going well. I'm learning something new, and I'm trying, and we started off and we had a low number of a metric. And in the 2 months that I've been there, I'm working 12, 13, 14-hour days, and we dropped another 4 points. So I'm hustling backwards, right? Like nothing is going the way that it's supposed to be going. And my wife comes to me and she's like, I thought this job was supposed to be better. I thought you were supposed to be home more, right? Because that was the information that I had gotten from the person that had the job before me. And so, of course, if I'm not home more and we're doing worse, I, of course, feel like I am horrible right now. Like I must suck at this, right? And what I realized, because my wife told me, she was like, I didn't get married to be a single parent. And just like you said, I'm sitting there thinking, wait a minute, I'm doing all of this for us. Like I'm serving my country. I'm doing, this work where I was a defense counsel. I'm saving people from jail who shouldn't have even been accused. I'm doing these things, and all of this, I'm trying to make the world a better place, trying to make the family a better place. I'm taking care of everything. You don't have to worry about money. You don't have to worry about anything. And at the same time, she was like, but you're not home. And even when you're home, you're not home. I can tell that you're not present. We'll watch movies and you're zoned off thinking about the next case or the next thing that you got to do. You're not home. And it made me, really have to, it was like a gut punch. It was really humbling. And I had to look at being a good father and being a good husband were also extremely important to me. And I couldn't continue sacrificing those aspects of my character, those aspects of my personality, those aspects of my goals for my life in order to just be good professionally. While I was doing decent professionally, right? To get selected to be a commander, you had to have something going for you. And it really made me start reevaluating how I was doing this, because what I was thinking was if I just work hard, then things will get better. And I realized that I had to work smarter.
If I just work hard, things will get better.
Right. And that's where a lot of people get stuck, right? We feel like we're not grinding enough. And I want to, and, there's a lot of guys that are out there that are pushing grind, right? Like even, Dame John has a book, Rise and Grind. And there's, the push of the grind. And it makes sense, right? Because when you're talking to the general population, right? Most people have to get over their fear of grinding in order to get into the high achiever realm.
Mhm.
But my audience is not those who aren't grinding right now and need to grind. My audience is the high achievers who are grinding themselves into burnout.
Right. You're
Right.
grinding, but you're gonna grind yourself into the ground.
Right.
And then
Exactly.
what?
Exactly. And that was the place that I was in. And what I realized was I had to learn to work smarter. And it was crazy was this wasn't stuff that I didn't know. Right. Before I was in the Marine Corps, before I was an attorney, I was a teacher. I was a basketball coach. I ran a network marketing business. Like I was spinning a bunch of plates before I did this.
Mhm.
Right. And in that space, I understood how to delegate. I understood how to split my time. I understood all those types of things. What was crazy was when the stakes were raised and when the job was more important to me, it was like I forgot everything I knew. And that's what a lot of my clients run into. There were different places in our lives where we were actually good at this, but for one reason or another, we forgot what we knew. And so the key is you have to get back to understanding how to work smarter, understanding how to put things in harmony, as you said, right? And to make the music sound well. And so in that space, I started figuring out how to get things done in a better way, how to delegate to more people, how to incorporate more people, how to do all those types of things. And I went from working 12, 13, 14 hours to 4 to 5 hours a day.
Mhm.
In that time, we actually increased that metric that we had dropped 4% when I first started. We increased it over 20% from where we were. We actually went from being one of the worst companies in the battalion to being the best company in the battalion as far as that particular metric. And over that time, my battalion commander actually reorganized our company so that we went from being the smallest company in the battalion to being the largest company in the battalion over the course of a period of a little bit over a year.
How cool is
Um,
that?
and that's the journey that I went on, and that's what I put in the book because I understand how it feels. I understand how it feels to be working and to be striving and to be doing well, right? To be on the outside, everybody thinks that you're accomplishing and you're looking well, you're looking good, right? But for you to be feeling like you're not doing well, like
Mhm.
everything is going poorly, and then you're just grinding and grinding and grinding, and you know that it feels like you're a hamster on a wheel just running in
Mhm.
place. That feeling is debilitating, it's crippling, and it leads to that burnout. And in 1 in 3 entrepreneurs, it leads to depression.
Oh my gosh. I tell you, this is, I remember a time when my wife says, you're not taking time to smell the roses. Right. And she says, I can't believe that you are devaluing some of the successes that you've been able to achieve. Right. And I remember a time I was working, 60 hours. I had, was finishing up a master's degree, was able to get that done. And I says, I got a little depressed after that master's degree because it was like, oh wow, what next? And I thought, well, there's PhD, right? There's that you could do. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, well, there's also a PhD in doing. How about just getting out there and taking the same amount of time you would take to do a PhD and just create things? Otherwise, you're going to be known as the person that worked a lot, that was away
Mm-hmm.
from the house, that was not present, but
Mm-hmm.
you've got accomplishments. You've got letters after your name. But
Mm-hmm.
what have you put into the world? What have you
Right.
given back to the world? And that's where I slowed down, stopped, literally started thinking about coming off of the 9 to 5. It took me another couple of years, and I said, you know what? I'm giving my 9 to 5 back to the economy, and then I'm going to do three pillars within my life. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
write, teach, and entrepreneur. You see stuff around here. I got, stuff, spun up to write. I started writing more books, started writing
Mm-hmm.
more things,
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneuring, started teaching entrepreneurship, started giving back in that regard, doing more coaching, giving away stuff. Write, teach, entrepreneur. So when someone comes to me and says, hey, I'd like you to do this job, I go, does it have to do with writing? Does it have to do with teaching? Right? Or does it have to do with entrepreneuring, creating things? If it does
Exactly.
not, it is a no. Right?
Exactly.
That's one of the things
Exactly.
that helped me peel off, right? Peel off these things because,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that decision fatigue is real.
Yes.
And that adds to the stress, to the cortisol, to the levels of, all these different things that happen to entrepreneurs physically, and
Yes.
then the emotional part of it, right?
Yes.
I love what
Yes.
Michael Gerber talked about in E-Myth Revisited, right here on
Mm-hmm.
page 97, 98. He says, the purpose of your life is not to serve your business,
There you
but the
go.
primary purpose of your business is to serve your
Your
life.
life. Yep.
So are
Yep.
you creating the processes, systems, and things like that? That's why I love talking to you, because you always say, hey, I got a system. right? Sometimes I gotta walk away from you because I'm like, man, I don't have that system. This guy is pissing me off. You got all these systems and all this stuff. But that becomes where the levers of success lie, I believe.
Yes. No,
right?
I agree wholeheartedly. And I wish I could have said that I came up with that idea on my own, but no, I found this quote that it kind of encapsulates it from the great Peter Drucker, who like yourself is a prolific writer, over 90 books on how to run businesses and how to be an effective executive. The thing that he said is this: routine, right, or a system, is the thing that allows a novice without judgment and experience to accomplish a task that would have taken near genius to accomplish absent the routine.
Wow. Powerful. Routine, right? So think about it, entrepreneurs, as you're listening out here, right? What is that routine? I like to call it, I think I read Charles Duhigg's The Power of Habit.
That,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
And he talked about that. And I remember saying, how can I create in a way that is not extra, but just the way, the thing that I do, right? Exactly. Can I habitualize something? That's when I start saying, right, can I get up every morning and go, hey, it's like brushing my teeth, combing my hair, I go on and do a video.
There you go. So to your point, that's the key thing, right? When you put routine and then you habitualize it, what you do is you tap into a power that makes you exponentially more productive. And that's one of the big keys, right? There's 5 keys that we talk about to mastering your time and thriving in chaos. The 5th key is sustaining.
Is that the book or the course?
In both, but
okay.
The 5th key that we talk about is sustaining the transformation, and the way to do that is to hack habit, right? So it's great to create routines because routines will make things easier for you, right? Routines help you to work smarter, not harder, right? However, if you don't habitualize the routine, you still run the risk of falling prey to decision fatigue. Because here's the thing that most people don't realize: 40 to 50% of the decisions that you make in a day are unconscious. So let me just put that in a layman's terms.
Pulls on your time, pulls on your energy.
1 out of 2 decisions that you make in a day, you don't even think about. Now, here's the key. Which of those decisions are we talking about? Because like you said, they still pull on your time, they still pull on your energy, you still got to do stuff. But here's the great part. If you can make your success decisions habitual,
success decisions,
right, and create success habits. I love it. Yeah. And instead of having to make conscious success decisions, if you can make unconscious success decisions, you exponentially improve your ability to be successful without it feeling like it was a gargantuan task. Because the difference between those unconscious decisions versus the conscious decisions is that the conscious decisions have to go through a process that use a lot more of the brain. Now, I won't go really deep into the science with you, but I'll just tell you that when they've done these studies, they've done a number of different studies on lab rats and things like that to figure out what parts of the brain are used in decision making. And when you get to habitual decision making, there's a part of the brain called the basal ganglia. That's where all of your habits live. And the amazing thing about that part of the brain is that you can do behaviors out of the basal ganglia while 90% of the rest of the brain is dormant. Now, the brain uses up 20% of the energy of the body, even though the brain is only 2% of the mass of the body. So it uses an inordinate amount of energy to do what it does. But if you can make things habitual, you reduce that energy output that's necessary to make those things happen by a factor of 5. Wow. That's the big key that we're looking at.
Now, guys, I wasn't doing the math on all that, but it sounded pretty impressive. It sounded pretty good. So, right? so let's think about that. What are you doing every single day that is unconscious but success decisions? How do we put those in, Rob? Is that something that you're teaching in the course, or
that's
is that something
that's exactly?
Tell us how to do this. Give us a little primer.
So the basic thing that we look at, right? So there's certain things that we want to make unconscious and easy decisions for people to make, because like we talked about, decision fatigue is real, and decision fatigue is just like muscle fatigue. It's one of those types of things where the more decisions you make, the less willpower you have. Most people walk around thinking that the Will Smiths of the world, the Bill Gates of the world, the Warren Buffetts of the world, right? The Tyler Perrys of the world just have this unconscionable willpower. That's what sets them apart. And that's the mythology of high achievers, but it's not real. Everybody has similar amounts of willpower. The issue is certain things draw off of your willpower reserves differently. And then over time, you're built up. For example, when you look at bodybuilders and muscle-bound people, right? Like they didn't start out that way. Even if they started out a little bit stronger relative to their other 7-year-olds and 8-year-olds or 18-year-olds, right? What they are benefiting from is the compounding interest of constantly improving that gap. So that now when you see a guy put up 385 pounds on a bench press, right? And therefore he doesn't get tired when he's doing 225 or 150. That doesn't mean that 150 doesn't sap energy from his muscles. It just means that it saps a lot less energy from his muscles. But one of the reasons why, and this is what people don't understand, is because his muscles are so used to pushing weight and pushing higher levels of weight that smaller amount doesn't take the same amount of energy. And so when we talk about willpower, what you have to understand is you can, if we're using the weight analogy, you can allow decisions to continue to be 45-pound plates, or you can use certain tactics and techniques that transition and transform those 45-pound plates down into 2.5-pound plates. And so when you think about it mentally, if I try to put up this 45 pounds, 225 or whatever, or if I put up the bar with 2.5 plates on each side, which one am I going to be able to do more? No matter how much in shape I am.
Right.
That's the key. That's what Hacking Habit does. And that's what putting this together does. So how do we do that? There's a couple of things that I teach people. The one is the 3 Ds. And the 3 Ds are this: distinguish, deliberate, and then decide.
Distinguish, that's determining, right? What am I going to do?
Yep.
Deliberate, and then decide.
Right. And so as we go through those, the first one, distinguish. When we're distinguishing between whether something is important to us or not. Right? Because oftentimes that's not a decision that we make. We allow things to have importance because they're important to other people without ever considering whether they're important to us and on what level they're important to us, right? Some things are important to me just because the person who brings it is important, but that's not as important as the thing, right? As what I'm working for, what I'm striving for, why I put my business together. And so, for example, there are lots of times, and we've had this experience together, right? You'll call me and you'll be like, hey, Rob, I want to get together and I want to meet when you got some time, right? Now, you, Randy, are important to me. We're friends. I like you. We hang out. You're my boy, right? However, random meeting setting steals from my time. And so instead, I have a system whereby everybody, it doesn't matter if the only person that doesn't have to follow this system is my wife. That's the one person that I do basic meetings with, and I pull my calendar out and I spend all that time. Everybody else, I have a calendar link. And I say, I would love to spend some time with you. Here's my calendar link. Find some time on my calendar that works for you. Right?
You know why I'm laughing, right? Because my wife says, not everybody has the life that's living the life of leisure like you are, bro. You know what I mean? And people have things going on, right? Because I'm like, I can't believe they're not getting back to me as soon as I want them to get back to me, right? Because I like to spin things up so quickly and get things done so fast, and so I can continue with the inspiration and the juice that kind of got me there. And then if I'm waiting on somebody else, it's like, dude, what's happening?
Slowing you down,
lady, what's going on? It's like, hey, guy. Not everybody's living the life of Riley like you.
Exactly.
Right?
And what's funny is that used to bug me too, because I was the same way. I used to have innately, if I sent an email, if somebody sent me an email, I used to have as a knee-jerk reaction, I had to respond back to it. Even if I didn't have a full answer, it was responding back saying, hey, I'm thinking about this, I'll get back. But I used to have that reaction. And so I used to sit in that space too. And it would bug me because I'm sitting there waiting. So I'm holding spots open because normally the way I used to do it is I would give 2 or 3 spots that I had open in time. So now I'm holding those spots open until I hear back from the person. And they might not get back to me for 1, 2, 3 days because it's not as important to them as getting the idea of, hey, I want to have a meeting with you was to get out of their head. Now, I'm not saying that's you, but I'm just saying in general, this is how this came to be. And it would literally stress me out setting meetings. And what I realized was the reason it was stressing me out is because I was trying to ensure that I did everything. I was trying to ensure that I got the meeting set because the person was important to me. And I didn't want them to feel like meeting with them wasn't important to me. But I couldn't make it more important to me than it was to them. And that's what I was doing by putting my life on hold until this thing was resolved. Because again, I need to check the box. I need to get things done. I need to get things out, right? And so what I did is I had to create a system that allowed me to do both, right? But I first had to distinguish what was most important to me. What's most important to me are the things, the rocks that are in my schedule, that I set my schedule, and then I will let other people filter their way into my schedule around those things that are most important to me. Now, I don't have to tell the people out there that you're not as important as this other thing over here. That's kind of rude. You don't do that. Right. But you have to know.
You don't?
No, exactly. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
No wonder they didn't call me back. Huh?
That's one of those emotional intelligence things. Right. But the key thing about it is we have to be able to distinguish what are the important things to us. And this takes us back, and I want to get, before I gave us the 3Ds, and I'm gonna come back to this, but there's something that we have to do even before the 3Ds. And this is actually step one of beginning to master your time. And that's defining success, right?
What does success look like to you?
Exactly. What does success mean? We were talking about earlier how there's that letdown. There's that depression that happens after achieving goals. And that is really related to the fact that we don't plan through the goal. And the reason we don't plan through the goal is because we don't know what success actually means to us. There's a couple of questions that I always ask my clients. What is the purpose of your life, right? Like you just talked about, Michael Gerber was saying your business is supposed to support your life.
That's right.
Supposed to support your purpose. But one of the reasons that people get burnt out and they find it difficult to do that is because they don't know what their purpose is. They're achieving in pursuit of their purpose without knowing first what their purpose is. And that's why the achievements are always a letdown, because the achievements are actually trying to help you define or divine your purpose. So what we do in the course is we start with the end in mind, right? We take a Stephen Coveyism. We begin with the end in mind, and we go and look at what is your life purpose first. How do we define success? And then we ensure that everything in your life is aligned with that purpose. And once you do that, now you can distinguish between different things that may be important to you, but may not all be necessary right now. Patrick Bet-David, who is the founder of Valuetainment, founder of the PHP agency, he has a book out called Your Next 5 Moves. And one of the things that he talks about in there, amateurs in chess are thinking about the move that they're doing. Maybe they're thinking 1 to 2 moves, right? A pro in chess is thinking 3 to 5 moves ahead. A master in chess is thinking, 5 to 10 moves ahead, and a grandmaster is thinking 15 plus moves ahead, right? A chess champion is thinking 15 plus moves ahead. And, people will read that, people will hear that. And so we'll start thinking ahead. And we're thinking, we're visionaries, we're proactive, all those kind of anticipatory vision, all the buzzwords that are in the marketplace, right? But the problem that Patrick Bet-David talks about, and that I see so often with my clients, is we'll get good at thinking ahead, but then we'll try to do step 14 before we do step 3. And so it's not just about knowing what the steps are and knowing what is between here to there, but it's also about making sure they're in alignment and that you're doing them in the order that they need to be done.
Right.
Because they build off of each other.
Now, is that where deliberating comes in, where you got distinguish, right? We're deciding. And then now, where is deliberation? How much do we have to deliberate? Are we going to get stuck in the analysis paralysis?
Now, and that's where decide comes in, right? So deliberation is where most people start first. And they do it so short because they're deliberating with the wrong paradigm in place. Most people are stuck feeling like it's a binary solution. I can either take care of these people over here, or I can take care of me. And that binary is very debilitating, especially for those of us that are high achievers, because most of us that are high achievers have grown up and have been conditioned to be team players. We've been conditioned that selfishness is bad.
Right.
We've been conditioned that if faced with a binary situation where I can take care of me or I can take care of the team. I take care of the team every time. We have been conditioned to be martyrs and to be self-sacrificial. And here's the key. While that's not on its face bad, it is also going to lead to burnout. Because at the heart of that concept is self-sacrifice. It is pouring from an empty cup.
Right.
And that's why even though high achievers and people who are in leadership roles and entrepreneurial roles may have been gifted with a higher level of fortitude, a higher level of experience, a higher level of talent, but because they're constantly pouring that out, they get to middle age and they wind up burning out.
Wow, that's big.
It's not sustainable.
That's big. That's big. Are you everybody? Are you hearing this? And if you're on YouTube, are you seeing what Rob just said? This is what's happening to us, and this is why I'm worried about the entrepreneurs. I'm worried about all of us in our community because it's happening at such a high rate. We talk about the mental health part of this. I was not aware of suicides within the entrepreneurial community, the mental health issues within the entrepreneurial community, right? And this being a part of it, right? And this is why we wanted to talk about this. This is why I wanted to have Rob come on and, just break it down because he's done so much. He's, at a high level, had to do so much, had to construct some things. And I needed to hear this for me, right? This is the selfish part of it. Pouring into me, and I just want to share it with everybody else. There's one thing I wanted to add here. It's something that I got from Donald Miller over here, the book he just wrote, Business Made Simple, right? He says right on page 57, everybody, a value-driven professional knows how to prioritize their highest return opportunities. Now he says to ask this question: what's the most important thing I can do today?
There you go.
And that's not, I'm paraphrasing, but
there you go.
What is the most important? Now, this is something I get after my entrepreneurs about, right? I say, hey, listen, what does your spreadsheet say? Now, this is not on the personal side. This is on the business side. What are you getting ready to do? Tell me about your day, right? And then I says, what does your spreadsheet tell you should be doing? Now, if you say I want a $100,000 a month business, how many calls is that? How many sales do you have to make? What does the spreadsheet say, right? That is the value. If you're driving toward that, that's one thing. But if you say, oh, I'm spinning up another plate over here that has nothing to do with, and don't try to defend it.
Exactly.
Don't try to defend to me. Well, it does have to do with this because I'll come back and says, okay, what is your time worth? You've determined that because your spreadsheet is going to tell you if I do this business, I'm making, $200 an hour or whatever. And you're doing a $15 an hour job over here. You're getting ready to go and do something on that website.
Yeah.
Or something in your email list or something like that. Now, building that idea and those strategies is one thing. Yep. Having and you being in it, implementing it is not the highest return priority.
There you go.
So cut it out. So I said, look, in order so they don't throw, daggers at me, I said, what does the spreadsheet say? This is not me saying this. You told me you would like to earn this amount from this business. This is how I start off with the entrepreneurs. I say, okay, what would you like this business to earn you? Well, I don't know. Well, let's figure that out first.
There you go.
Like you said, let's go and let's distinguish. What does success look like?
Right.
So what does success financial in your business look like? The thing that can bring you off your job, that thing that can bring you home more, the thing that's going to get you flying wherever you want to fly. Okay, what does that look like?
Exactly.
Once we get that down, any activity, when I call you and I do, I got this thing, this program called Goal Mate, GOAL Mate, right? So I'm coming in, I'm saying, okay, I'm your goal mate today. What are we doing? What activity? Oh, really? What does that have to do with that money that you say you're going to earn?
Yep.
The activity. You got to make 150 phone calls today. You got to be on LinkedIn, right? Finding folks or having someone do it for you and then you sending out the
there you go
or whatever.
There you go.
Why are you doing all this other stuff?
Yep.
So
That's all
speak
distinguishing
to
right
that
there
for
that
us.
you were just talking about. That's what's in the distinguishing position. Now, again, the 5 steps that we go through, right? We talked about defining success. The next one is aligning and prioritizing your goals, right? So it's not just the fact that you have to align your goals and make sure everything's pointing there, but this is, again, going back to the doing step 3 before you do step 14. You have to prioritize those goals and say, which one should I be doing now? Which one should I be trying to get at now? And then the third step, which is right up the alley of what you were talking about, is scheduling those priorities. Okay, now that you know what order things should be in, what are you doing and putting into your schedule to make sure that it's happening that is in line and in alignment with your prioritization?
I love that. I love what you did to me once. You said, this is fun, everybody. You're gonna love this, right? Now, this is in line with what he's talking about, prioritizing. So I call him up, hey, Rob, what are you doing? He says, hey, I'll send you my schedule. So that's not saying I'm not hanging with you, I can't do this. He's saying, I'll just show you my schedule.
There you go.
Send a picture of his schedule. And I looked at it and says, well, there's no time for us today. It was full. Yep. That's a strategy, everybody.
Yeah. And that goes, you're exactly right. That goes to the 4th step, which is handling interruptions, because those first 3 steps are what we have to do internally. That's what we do in our heads. That's how we prepare ourselves to go out into the battle space and make things happen. But here's what's going to happen, right? As Mike Tyson says, everybody got a plan till they get punched in the mouth. Right. And so step 4 is all about dealing with those interruptions, handling those interruptions, and setting and enforcing boundaries so that you can actually make your schedule happen. And so to that point, a lot of times what we're worried about, again, is that people are going to feel like that we're telling them no. And by telling them no, remember, that's that binary. Do I take care of them? Do I take care of me? We have to get ourselves past that. And this is where wrapping it back into how does distinguish work? Distinguish is all about you. Distinguish is all those 3 steps of saying, is this in alignment? Is this something that I should be doing, that I should be spending time on, that I should be trying to accomplish? Yes or no? If it comes into the yes category, that's when it gets complicated. If it's in the no category, it's really easy. Sorry, you can't do that. But if it's in the yes category, that's when it gets complicated, because again, we have differing levels of things that are important. We have priorities, right? We have goals that are prioritized. We have things that are a level 10 important, and we have things that are level 1 important. It doesn't mean they're not important, but it means that they can't be the level 10. They can't take the place of a level 10. That's where we have to deliberate. And in the deliberation, that's where we are enforcing our boundaries, and we're working towards win-win scenarios, right? Instead of looking at this binary picture where either yes, I can win, or no, I can lose, we figure out, how do I get what I want and you get what you want?
So you solve the chaos of one's life, and therefore the potentials of burnout and overwhelm, by enforcing these types of approaches, right?
Exactly.
And I tell you, we're running up against one, and this is how it works, guys. So I says, hey, Rob, I need you on this podcast. And he says, yeah, I can do it till 9. Right? So I set the clock. These are the kind of things. Listen to what happened. Hey, I can do it, but I need to be off at 9. So I set the clock for, 45 minutes to ensure that we got the information in, and that we had a little wiggle room, but this is because he's told me what needs to happen in his life. Right. That reduces stress.
Yes.
It's the yes, but here's complication. It's yes, and here is the structure of that yes.
Yes,
right?
Yes, and
that
exactly
can relieve some of the stuff that you're experiencing.
Exactly.
And in the 2.29 minutes that we have, is that why maybe some people are reducing the decision fatigue or some of the people you've read about that wore the same outfit, right?
Exactly.
Because they can go to the closet and say it's going to be a black turtleneck and it's going to be jeans. That's it.
Exactly. Right. And President Obama literally explained this when he became president. He talked about the fact that he realized that the decisions that he was going to have to be making as president all day, every day, were so impactful that he did not need to be thinking about simple stuff like whether he was going to be looking good on camera. But he didn't, right? he wasn't going to have a stylist and somebody, right? He doesn't have an unlimited budget. So how did he do that in a public office, but reduce the amount of decision fatigue that he was going to have? He bought 2 suits that would look good at he could wear them to funerals. He could wear them to state dinners. He could wear them to any type of thing he did. He bought a blue suit and he bought a gray suit. Now he bought multiples of those, but nonetheless, they work well with any tie combination. They work well with any shirt combination. They work well in any type of dinner or type of event that he was going to. That's the type of thing that he habitualized and systematized that decision so that it did not take up, right? He changed that 45-pound plate to a 2.5-pound plate. It's really easy to wake up and be like, all right, I'm wearing this. Yes. And by doing that, what we do eventually is we make the decisions easier and easier and easier and easier. And that's why we can accomplish more and more and more and more. And so to finish out with our 3Ds, we distinguish first, we figure out what's important to us. We get all that together. We do that analysis. If this thing is important to us, then we deliberate on what are the myriad options that are out there for us both to get what we want. Because all the time, it doesn't mean that your idea or my idea has to win the day. We could actually come up with a different idea. One of the reasons why I send you my schedule is like, hey, look at my schedule. If you see that there's enough time in my schedule to do what you want, great. I'm cool with doing it today. But if you feel like you need more than this, then we're going to have to figure out a different day so that we can get that, so that you can be happy and I can be happy.
That's great.
And it allows you to be a participant in us creating a different type of decision that makes us both happy instead of living this binary life. And then the last thing, like you said, what gets us out of analysis paralysis? At the end of the day, you have to decide and act. You can't stick in deliberation. You can't sit there and say, well, I'm thinking. No, you have to decide and you have to act and you have to make that happen, because here's the last thing. And as the timer is going off, I want to
y'all heard it.
I don't want to drop this last piece, right? The biggest thing that we have to get away from is this fear of failure and fear of mistakes. We have to understand that this is an iterative process. You're going to make mistakes, but as Grandmaster Elio Gracie of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu fame famously said, we never lose. We either win or we learn.
You never lose. You either win. Say it again. We either
win or we learn. So when you make a mistake,
so you got a W and an L. But
exactly.
you just tweaked it. If that's not worth the value of being here today, everybody, I don't know what is. Rob, tell us where they can find out more information. I know you got courses and all that kind of stuff. What is the easiest way into what you're doing and how that can help them?
All right. So the best thing to do to find me is to go to our website. It's legacyleadershipmastery.com. Again, that's legacy, LEGACY, leadershipmastery.com. You can email me at robert@legacyleadershipmastery.com and we can get you a copy of my book. My book's on Amazon. And you can find me and you can find everything on Amazon. But if you go to the website, you'll have all the information that you need. And we've got some really cool things coming out because we've got the course and we've got it set up so that you can get it either just the online version and we have a coaching component that's attached to it that helps you to incorporate the lessons into your life to make sure that you're getting transformational education, not just informational education. And so you can find all that on our website.
Everybody, I want you to, soak all this in. I promise you, this was not a 45-minute infomercial. I promise you, I needed to hear this today because as I looked at the things that were burning out my entrepreneurs and I started saying, wait a minute, I'm suffering from some of those. I decided to bring somebody in that could speak into my life today. And Rob, you have done it. And I hope it's spoken into your life too. Go off, enjoy the things that you've been able to hear today and implement these things. Contact Rob to go a little bit deeper if you want to, a lot of bit deeper if you decide to, right? What do we say? Distinguish, deliberate, and decide.
There we go.
It's all up to you. Everybody, thank you for coming in and listening to us today. We certainly appreciate you. Rob, I appreciate you a lot, man. It's helped me tremendously.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you having me. And I want to admonish everybody, remember to live every day like it's on purpose. You have greatness within you that you are supposed to be manifesting to make the world a better place. So remember to live every day like it has a purpose, like it's on purpose. And lastly, in alignment with your purpose.
Oh, my God. Boy, I tell you, it just keeps on coming. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, brother. Talk to you soon.
Yeah.